Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today, the next in the series of the mini makes. 4 more mini make art journal tutorials. This time I'm going to show you how you can do these mini pages in stages and set yourself up for success. The benefits of the mini makes: time. You can organize your time, little bits. You also are going to use your stash. So this is my mini make little art journal that I got at the Dollar Tree. And these are gel prints that I've put on. I've gessoed some of the pages. You can click the eye in the top right-hand corner to see all the preceding mini make videos, including the one where I set this all up. So we have some pages, again, some that are gel print, some that are blank, and some that are gessoed. Now I'm looking through some of the gel prints, and some of them, they're not really speaking to me. I don't really like them, so I don't need to use them. And today we are going to do some backgrounds in the your stash part of this, where we're going to use those little bits and pieces of the gel prints or the full-on gel prints to get the beginnings of our backgrounds, or maybe even an Insta background. So we're going to need gel prints that we don't like, white gessoed pages, as well as the raw page. Stage 1, we are going to collage those gel prints. So I have all my little bits and pieces of the gel prints in these little plastic pouches, and I'll put a link to them in the description box. I love keeping them there. All the little bits are there. So when you're collaging this on here, you can take and collage the entire background, except this is a disc-bound journal, and it has those little journals, and I did not want to spend the time to cut them out. So I am just putting it right up against the edge. And stage 2, I'm going to show you how to work around that so you really don't see that straight edge, hard edge later on. So I'm just using my gel medium, putting it underneath, getting a good coat, and putting it on top. Now, one of the advantage of doing pages and stages is we're going to do all the gluing down. So I only have to wash the brush once at the end of this session. Now, this session took about 45 minutes. And I ended up with about 18 pages. Of course, you don't have to do that many pages. I just was on a roll. And you're going to find at the beginning it's going to seem really awkward and maybe you're overthinking it, and then you get into the zone. So I'm pulling out different colors of gel prints, and I'm just trying to go with the flow, follow my instincts, pick out things that I like and combining them. Now, if you don't want to watch me create the backgrounds for this and get all the tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you along the way, you can go to minute 11:08 for the tutorials of the 4 pages. Just fast forward. So I am ripping these pages. Now, the first one, I went and I just glued the entire background. Here I'm picking multiple pieces, different colors, different textured papers, and layering on. Now this is going to give your background a lot of interesting texture. It's also a fun activity, playing with the colors of the gel prints and the patterns, and just without worrying about what's going to come next. Now my goal in this build your stash or build your backgrounds session is to get backgrounds with different colors so that I have lots of options when I go to actually doing the pages. Here I left the color of the background I liked and it matched the page. Here again, I'm just covering the entire surface. Now I love collaging or putting leftover paint on coffee filters of different kinds or tissue paper, and they make beautiful backgrounds. They layer up so well and give great backgrounds for this. And that's what you see me doing here. And this was about the time where, I was just really in the zone. Things were coming together. I was picking out, working, okay, I want to do 3 green, I want to do some teal ones, I want to do different ones. But it just really, the time flew. And this is a great build your stash. You could do it someday. You could do it for 5 minutes. You could do it for 10 minutes. You set the time as to what you can accomplish. Then it's done and you can go on to the next step. Here I'm cleaning my tabletop and I'm cleaning it only once. Benefit of doing pages in stages this way. You get to the end. So here I'm just going to do a quick flip through of all the collage gel print backgrounds. And you can see the variety that I have. Now, stage 2, we are going to get rid of that hard edge because it's a disc-bound system, and we are going to add color. Now, here's the secret, gesso. I'm just dabbing on gesso over that edge and rubbing it on the background. Now remember, these backgrounds are the first layers. They're not intended to be finished. If there was one that I absolutely loved, do I have to cover it up? Absolutely not. But I want to make it more interesting. And mixed media and art journaling is all about building those layers, different bits and bobs of interest. Now, this is a great activity, blending the colors, seeing what you have in that gel print, mixing and matching other paints, getting to play. And again, you're not thinking about the composition, what I'm putting on the page. All you're dealing with are colors and textures and just having a great creative time. I did find it helpful to do work with all like the peach, pink, coral colors at one time and then move on to the greens or the blues or the pinks or the purples. And it kind of helps you focus a little bit. And I'm just adding a little bit more color, pushing back what's in that background. Now when you collage gel prints down, not only do you get the color and pattern that's there, but you get this incredible layered texture. Some papers really crinkle, some where you have overlapping edges, where it's ripped. That's all shows through and adds to your finished project. So here you see, again, I'm rubbing gesso on parts of that gel print. That gel print was the starting layer. And I think sometimes we cheat ourselves out because we fall in love with the first layer, but we have to give that up to improve it. And sometimes that's hard to do. So here I'm doing the green blue ones. Adding gesso to get rid of that hard edge, rubbing gesso on various places, and then coming in with some color that basically is already there. I'm not changing the colors too much. I'm brightening it and enhancing it. My goal to have a multitude of colors with different backgrounds, just a variety, so that when I do want to pick a page, there may be just that right page. Gluing down the gel prints is something if you are waiting to pick up your daughter at some event or waiting to go into the doctor's office, you can take and glue them down. So here are the pages. Some are more finished than others, But I'm not worried because the next stage we're going to add more levels of interest. We're going to start where we are and add if we choose to. I think I got 16 or 18 backgrounds in my 45-minute session. And you'll see I'm going to take 4 of these and they will turn into mini makes for this session. And the others will be coming up in future mini makes. Do I love every background? No. Some I'm thinking, it's not done yet. Some it's like, oh, I love. And because this is disc bound, if there's 2 backgrounds that are very similar in color, I can make sure that they are in different places. So stage 3, we did actually off screen. I selected the focal images and the sentiments. Picking a theme, such as I did here, time, helps. I got my sentiment pack. It's about time. And I downloaded some free domain pictures with various time images. I cut them up and basically decided which 4 I was going to do. And now I'm going to finalize the composition and do the basic part of the page. I'm adding hearts here from more gel prints to tie in with sentiment. And I'm selecting the finalizing the size of the sentiment. Now my sentiment packs, and there is a video that shows you how you can resize them, make them smaller or bigger. If you print 6 pages onto one page, you get the smaller version. If you do 4, you get another size, both of which work depending on the sentiment for ATCs. Now I'm just finalizing. I'm cutting off excess white. I'm rearranging the letters and the words of the sentiment to finalize that composition. And when you get it to the point where you like it, take a picture, help yourself out because you take it off to glue it down and then you forget where it was. Now I wanted to add a little bit more to the background. Since I added those blue hearts in the front, I thought, you know what, I'm going to add some hearts to the background in that dark blue. I don't want it in your face. I'm just adding one more layer of interest. This is a TCW cake and cookie stencil, which I love. They're 5" by 5", and these little hearts are just perfect. So I'm going to arrange those clocks with the heart in the middle. And I'm still playing a little bit with the arrangement of things. It always amazes me how much time I can spend moving something a mere millimeter over. My sentiment packs, if you want to go and see them, you can click the link for NinnysNapkins in the description box below. And you can go and see what's included in all the various sentiment packs. So with this one, I have had in my stash Aurora, which is the Prima doll, and I had it cut out. And I had those little circles that I had cut out of a gel print for another project, and they just sit in my stash. I've got a bucket here of all these things. And my goal when I do the mini makes is to use the stuff that's already there as much as possible. I use the words stamped from Stamperia in the background, and I stenciled with the tiny dot stencil from the Crafter's Workshop just to add more color. I had those circles and I wanted to tie that into the background. Gluing everything down with gel medium. or fluid matte medium. I'm not even sure which one I use. I think this one's fluid. Now I was going to go with this sentiment, again from the time package, and then I thought, you know, one of these looked better in the composition. And so addition the different sentiments and pick whatever looks better to you. So with this one, I could have left the girl, Aurora, white. She looked good on the background, but I decided I'm going to colorize her. And to do that, you could use whatever color medium you want. I could have used my Inktense pencils. I could have used my big brush markers. I just grabbed acrylic paint. And I'm painting with a fine liner brush or my angle brush. And I'm picking colors for the dress, for the hair, that I think is going to look good in the background. Because there's so much yellow in the background, to make her light hair colored, blonde, wouldn't necessarily work. Now I know I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some shading and stuff, but that's going to be the next stage, because this video is all about doing pages in stages, where I'm doing 4 pages, but I'm doing all of the one stage with each page. Now this one I chose the Fantangle stencil, and I'm going to come in with gold after I add some script to the background. Again, a little bit. It's not, you don't see a lot of it. Navy and gold just look so good. And I chose the Fantangle stencil because that shape is in that free domain picture of the hourglass. Now I forgot to cut out the white parts around the hourglass. I do paint that out off camera. I could have left it the way it was, but you have options. And the 4th page, I decided this background was very, very plain. I wanted to add some movement to the back, so I grabbed this Capricious stencil from the Crafters Workshop. I'll put a link to those in the description box below as well. Now I should have left it here with just that little bit. And that's the advantage or disadvantage of doing a video, because you can see where you should have stopped. But at this point I was thinking, oh, that's not enough. So I bump the stencil, move it a little bit, and I come back in with more stenciling. And it got a little bit busy. I wanted to add some black to the background, so I grabbed that word stamp because, again, I had it right out. That's the other thing when you do pages and stages. You have the supplies out, you can use them. One cleanup. These dragonflies, again, these were something that I had stamped excess of, because when I do stamping, I always stamp more than I need, and then they do go in my stash. And as I said, I just have a container that's here. I just throw the little bits in there. And then when I do mini makes or ATCs, I just go through that, and it's amazing how much you can use. Now, stage 5, I'm edging the page and I'm shading the focal image. I'm using the floating acrylic technique with my angle brush, and I'm shading the edge. This just always makes such a difference. If you don't like your page, shade the outside edge. It frames it, and it just brings everything together. Now you could shade with, I'm using acrylic paint and the floating acrylic technique, as I said, but you can use a Stabilo alt pencil, you can use a charcoal pencil. I like using this technique because it's permanent, and I just find it really easy to do. It's a good technique to master, and I will put a link to the video where I teach how to do that technique. So I've used this technique around the edges, and then I'm shading elements of the focal image, and in some case I'm going around the sentiments as well. And this just helps the focal image stand out from the background. And you can see the dragonflies suddenly seem to be more forward once I've shaded them. Stage 6, I'm doing some line work. You can use your fine line applicator bottle. Here I'm using the Sakura Glaze pen. I'm going around the sentiments, and then I'm adding some on the focal image. And the reason for that is the Sakura Glaze is dimensional and glossy, and that adds to the finished page. But you can use whatever liner pen you have. At the last stage, I am splattering. I guess this would be in stage 7. I'm splattering in gold, and then I'm splattering in black. So here are the finished 4 mini makes, and I love them. So I started this with a background where I just collaged gel prints, either a whole page for a gel print or ripped pages. I applied a base coat of color with gesso to get rid of that hard edge, and then just blend those colors to get a basic background. I took some time out going through my stash to look for a sentiment and a focal image from free domain pictures from my stamps. Picking a theme helps focus yourself. Now that I've set up the composition, I'm adding some pattern with either some stamping or stenciling to the background. I glued down my focal images, be they stamped images or free domain ones that I printed out with my laser printer, and glue the sentiment and the focal image down. I edged the page with black acrylic paint and the floating acrylic technique. I shaded the focal image and the sentiments using that same technique. I outlined using my Sakura Glaze liner pen. I splattered all 4 pages with gold and with black. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you start your own mini make. Now go get creative.